let's go ahead and start. Let me know. Sorry, I'm to the chair. There's one back there.
Yeah, you good.
Yeah, she's over here. Yeah, why don't you sit over here? We good? Okay. Thank you all. This is majority. We need another chair. You'll probably have to steal these out.
Yeah.
We'll have you guys.
We're gonna slide our own chairs up.
Exactly. Okay, welcome to the Village of New Paltz Planning Board. This is our first meeting of December, Tuesday, December 1st, 2015. And, we have several ongoing items to deal with, one new or one amended application we haven't seen for a long time, a couple of zoning related items, and some administrative business. The first item tonight is PB 1719 Church Street. This is, was originally given to us as a site plan, which we started last meeting. It is in fact an expansion of a business with internal changes only. We didn't actually receive a site plan, we received a floor plan. And in consultation with the applicant last meeting, we determined there's no changes to lighting, to signage, to anything other than the location of the door, I should say, where customers will be coming in and out to use the restaurant after it's expanded. And with that, I think there was general agreement on the board that we didn't need to review this as a site plan. And so with that, we have a resolution which I'll pull up. Packet. I don't know if it made it into any hard copies. Oh, you do? Awesome. So, resolution determining no site plan review is required for 1721 Church Street, Village of New Paltz Planning Board application PB 1519. Whereas on November 17, 2015, Jack Gordon, the applicant, applied for site plan approval to expand an existing restaurant at 1721 Church Street in the B2 district in the Village of New Paltz by utilizing soon-to-be vacated interior space currently occupied by a retail business. And whereas the expansion involves the addition of tables and seats to accommodate from 36 to 49 patrons, and whereas the expansion involves no exterior changes to the building, lighting, or signage, and whereas there exists in the Village of New Paltz Building Department a valid and approved site plan for 1721 Church Street, and whereas according to section 212.23 of the Village of New Paltz zoning law, there is no need for site plan approval for this proposed business change of occupancy. Now therefore it is hereby resolved by the Village of New Paltz Planning Board that the application of Jack Gordon for site plan approval to expand the restaurant seating at 1721 Church Street in the B2 district is hereby dismissed. The applicant, Jack Gordon, is free to apply to the Village of New Paltz Building Department for a business change of occupancy, and the escrow fee shall be returned to the applicant, Jack Gordon, within 45 days. That's our resolution. I should have, we did discuss parking impacts on this and determined that we didn't need to address those further. So that's the resolution on the floor. We never had a public hearing because we're determining we don't actually need to review this as a site plan. So,
So moved.
any discussion about this any further? You okay with this, John? I know you went through that.
I caught up on it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so
I have a question for Rich. Is that a watch on your hand? Because this isn't working. If you have a watch, I could use it for time.
It's 7:10, and I have
Yeah, thank you.
It's a 1999
Thank you.
Rite Aid Timex.
That one. Thank you. Perfect. I'll note that in the minutes.
okay.
Isn't it amazing? Nobody wears a watch.
That's your phone.
I do.
All right.
Mine's too.
So Christina will we'll draw up a version of that, and you can sign it, and,
The resolution is right here.
okay, so we can let the applicant know tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next one is PB 1520, 5 Mulberry Street. Sylvia, you want to come up? Hi. Good. So Sylvia, we started talking to you last week. Can you tell us what's happened in the last 2 weeks?
I spoke to Louis, the guy that is in charge of C2G,
Okay.
that Greg Campbell hired, well, that I didn't know he hired. And he didn't know anything about what was going on,
Okay.
the manager of that place. So I spoke with him today and I told him what was going on. He then approached my mortgage company, and my mortgage company approached them as them being the ones to take the debris out of my property.
Okay.
And I have proof here.
It's okay.
This department. I was calling in regards to your insurance claim. We did receive the estimate from C2G Environmental Consultants in regards to the debris removal. We did speak with him today. He is supposed to be giving us the permanent documentation we need in order to get the funds released to get the debris removal completed. If you do have any questions, please contact us at 866-844-2198. That line is available 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday. That is Eastern Standard Time. Again, the number is 866-844-2198. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. So they're waiting for paperwork so they can release the funds.
Apparently the company C2G is not aware of the fact that they were going to remove my
Okay.
debris until today.
Okay.
And he's the manager.
Whatever. That's, I mean, I'm just asking for an update. We're not involved in that part of this process. So just wanted to know, I mean, the way it's relevant for us because we need to, there's nothing that we can do until the site is cleared.
Well, I wanted to clear it away before. I would have had it done 2 months ago.
Okay.
They were up to me.
Sure.
But it wasn't up to me.
Well, again, that's not really within our purview. I mean, that.
I was crying for my dogs and somebody else went over my head.
Okay. Well, there's
So
nothing.
now that it's up to me, here we go.
Okay. So, do you have any sense of when
It's up to the manager of C2G. He was supposed to fax, as you heard her say, the papers today with signatures
Okay.
and a W-9 form, because they need that.
Okay.
And they want a $10,000 deposit, the C2G people,
Okay.
to even move their fingers.
So,
My mortgage company is gonna go behind him, because I urged him that it's very important that I get that cleaned up for
Okay.
many, many reasons.
right.
And Marie, who was on the phone from my bank, she's gonna go, she's gonna call every day until we get them
Okay.
to fax them the paperwork.
All right.
Because, I'm not the insurance company, I'm not the person who hires the people, and I'm just the one that had the fire. I lost
Understood.
everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
Okay.
unfortunate that we have to go through all this, but if it were up to me, I would have had it done in a week.
Well, this is where we are now, so it sounds like the people who need to be in touch with each other are starting to be in touch with each other.
Apparently somebody wanted them to work on that, because there's other people that can do the job.
Sure.
They could have done it a lot quicker. But
that's,
somebody got involved, and I don't know who.
okay, well, again, from our perspective, the first step in being able to help you is to get your site cleared, and it sounds like that process is beginning. So unfortunately, there's nothing else we can do tonight.
I understand that too.
The survey for your site will presumably happen once the property is cleared and the surveyor can get in there. And then your architect can go ahead and draft the site plan with the contents that we talked about last meeting.
Marie, excuse me, Marie,
Yes,
today I spoke to, I'm Sylvia Smith, I spoke to Dan Gunther on her behalf today,
Okay?
and he recommended Chuck Silver as a builder who's up in Saugerties, who's
Okay.
very knowledgeable in the type of
Okay.
home that Sylvia has expressed interest, which is a
Great.
passive solar.
Okay?
And I spoke with Chuck Silver of Hudson Alliance, and he said that they work with Catterskill Associates for the structural engineer.
Okay?
So they're going to be working with Sylvia
Great.
to come up with a preliminary plan.
Okay,
for
great.
the future, the drawing that she would like.
All right, well, you should, obviously, you should work with whoever you want to work with, and those decisions are yours, and, but this, as we laid out the steps last time, thank you very much. The site needs to be cleared. Once that's cleared, you can provide us with a
Yeah. I
a
just
survey-based plan, survey-based plan, and then on that basis, we can then deliberate in order to help you get the temporary permits you need in order to get your business and your home up. You'll then have the luxury of some time to provide us with additional details for an application for your permanent home and business.
Right, because,
And that's-
I would like to produce my plans.
Yeah, that's fine. So,
It's important to know that I have plans.
yep. So,
Those plans are important.
I'm sure. So for tonight, all we can do is ask you to keep us informed about how things are going, and hopefully in 2 weeks at our next meeting, which is on the 15th of December,
Should be all
things will be
resolved.
cleared and you'll have a drawing that you can come show us, and then we can move forward. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Sylvie. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Brian. Okay, PB 1502. You guys like to come up?
Did you happen to get the information requesting the original easement? Oh, great, thank you, thank you.
Who will be filing that?
Oh, I'm
With the county?
filing
Do you
that.
wanna-
Oh, no, I'm not filing with the county, I'm just filing it in our building folder.
Because if that's the original, that needs to go to the county, and then it'll be returned by the county.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it back to you, and then Michael has requested an original, so I don't see how we can
Once
do
it's
both.
filed, you can get an original, but he needs the original.
Yeah.
The original has to be filed with the county.
Okay. Yeah? Okay, great. And we're back. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're doing PB 1502, 16 North Chestnut Street, the Goodwill Church. So I think we have 3 things that we need to discuss tonight. If there's more on either side of the table, let me know. We need to talk about the accessibility issue. I promised we would complete seeker parts 2 and 3. And I do have a question about the parking lot that, based on the site plan, that should, hopefully it's a minor point related to the easement. So, why don't we start with the accessibility issue? I know you've had some back and forth with Brian.
Yes.
And so he's here, so we don't need to speak for him. Do you want to summarize the situation and then where it's at?
So, the problem with the accessibility is I have determined that the existing building code applies because it is an existing building, and that the existing building code requires accessibility for a change of occupancy from an A2 assembly occupancy to an A3 assembly occupancy. The previous occupancy was a restaurant, which is considered A2 under the Uniform Building Code. The church is going to be an A3 occupancy under the Uniform Building Code. That type of a change does require an update to meet current accessibility requirements under the Uniform Building Codes according to the existing building code. There is a discussion happening right now with the Department of State about whether or not the requirements for a new building under similar circumstances would require accessibility for the second floor where the main meeting room is. And if it does not require accessibility to the second floor where the main meeting room is going to be, if it was a new building, then the existing building code certainly cannot be more restrictive than code for new buildings.
Okay.
And we currently have an interpretation request from the Department of State.
Okay.
And they indicate that they'll review that sometime later this week.
Oh, okay. All right.
Basically, that was the ongoing conversation.
Okay. So that's consistent with what you know.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So
Sorry,
then
I couldn't hear. Has the application been made to the Department of State?
for an interpretation?
Right.
Sounds like it has.
Yes, it has been.
By the village or by the applicant?
Apparently, it's a rather informal process for the building inspector to just contact the Department of State's regional representative, who for Ulster County is in Peekskill, New York, and I did that.
Okay.
And if they determine that the way I had interpreted the code is wrong, and they just simply correct me, and that's the end of it. If they happen to determine that the way I now analyze the code is correct, then a variance, probably a routine variance, would be requested by the applicant with the Department of State, and that's a more formal process.
So the initial determination sounds like we'll know within a few days.
Okay.
Hopefully. Okay. In plenty of time for our next meeting. Is there anything else that you all want to add at this point? Or just
Well, if that was the only outstanding issue, I'm sorry, I thought you were about to say something, I apologize. If that was the only outstanding issue, I was curious if, once we resolve the other issues, instead of having another meeting after this, would be able to get a conditional approval based on the understanding that the elevators, if the elevator is not required as per the state, then we can move forward without another meeting. That was one of my questions to you.
Sure.
If any other issues have been taken care of, is all I'm saying.
So let's set that aside for the moment, and we will come back to that at the end.
Okay.
But it's a fair question. So is everybody okay with this issue? I mean, we're sort of turning it over to a higher power at the moment.
Can I just ask, is there a track record of reliable timeliness of these types of requests, or just for the benefit, for your benefit?
If I could jump in, the process just changed very recently as far as how this is done, so I don't think there's a proven time record on that. And it's more of an informal process from the building inspector now, so I don't know if there's a reliable way you can track it at this point.
Yep, good question. We shall see. So you have an easement between the property you're leasing and 1820 North Chestnut for 14 spaces. Unless I'm misunderstanding, on your site plan, which is this section here, I don't even count 14 spaces. And I certainly don't count any additional ones for the tenants. It wasn't clear to me if this was a space.
This is a
or not.
space right now, one of the dumpsters is located at this
Okay,
location.
that's why I
and
wasn't sure.
It's being removed and this dumpster is
Okay.
moving over this location.
All right, so there's 2, 4, 6, 8, is that a space too?
Yes.
Oh, okay, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 1 handicap space. So there are just 14 spaces. So what, because the easement specifically says this won't impact the tenants at 1820, but where are they gonna park now? I mean, that, you may not know, but it's certainly not shown on your site plan.
No, we didn't reflect what the building owner for that property was choosing to do. We thought there was a chance for them to have 2 parking spaces in the drive that's adjacent and actually on that property between the 2 buildings.
Do we know what the number of spaces required for the tenants at 1820 would be,
I think there are 3 apartments in that building.
okay, so there would be 3 spaces, and there's a,
3 spaces.
isn't there
And a
commercial
business,
business?
right?
There's a business on the first floor, or there was, I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah. Who owns that building?
The one next door.
I think they're both in the same ownership, aren't they?
Well,
No, they're not.
they're
The
relatives.
same?
They're relevant.
No, they're relatives, but they're not the same person and they're not the same LLC.
So wouldn't we require parking spaces for them as well as for,
Well, that's
Then-
the question.
and so, yeah, I guess, can he,
The easement doesn't, the easement indicates that there won't be any impact on 1820, but I don't see the additional spaces on the site plan. Not that you're necessarily required to put them there, but we need to know that you're not taking spaces. We can't promise spaces to you that are also needed by the tenants.
yeah, he can't give away the spaces for the tenants.
Right, and it specifically
the
says it
easement.
won't. So.
They had an ongoing agreement prior to this for the restaurant. And this was
Okay.
actually assigned already for the restaurant use, for the parking lot. It's actually labeled with signs.
Oh, okay.
Change
It's
back to the
Bartley's
lot.
only,
That's the
right.
parking for the restaurant only.
Right,
At present,
That's
that's
true.
we're just maintaining that same level of.
with the same number of spaces.
With the same number of spaces of what's there. We've actually, I think, reduced by 2 possibly because the actual size of the parking that's present, it doesn't meet current code. So we actually took out a couple spots
Okay.
to provide the proper size parking locations.
So I would just like to confirm that there isn't gonna be an impact on that. I'm gonna assume that everything is okay based on your site plan, but I'd like to just confirm that independently. Actually, by going to the site and counting spaces or something of that sort, so we know that building is not becoming non-conforming.
Okay.
I mean, Michael, I don't have a problem with parking. I'm probably the most
Yeah,
liberal in terms of the parking requirements. What I wanted to make sure was that 1820 hasn't boxed themselves in. If they come into us with a new tenant, we tell them, you've got no parking. You gave it all the way to the church.
well, that's what right, I don't,
Yeah,
I wanna
I'm
make.
just, have they boxed themselves into a corner by this agreement? Which may not be necessary.
Yeah, so I just want to, before we give final approval, I want to make sure that we have that. So that could be potentially part of the conditional, is just making sure that there's enough spaces for all parties here.
That investigation, how long do you think that may take? I'm just curious.
24 hours.
Okay, that's what I was just
I
curious.
literally just want to
Right.
go to the site,
Okay.
confirm the number of spaces the building has to have based on the business that's there and the number of tenants. Just double check that with our records, that's all. So yeah, we can give you that information tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. So, before I get on to seeker, are there any other issues from planning board members that, in terms of the site plan?
Mr. Zeeler, at the last meeting,
Yes, sir.
I think there was discussion about the screening of the dumpster.
Yep.
And just my notes weren't clear, and it's not in the minutes, so I'm not sure if you want to
Sure, I can bring
clarify
that up
that
again.
screening for the record, as well as whether there was going to be a required consultation with the Preservation Commission.
So the current site plan reflects the location, the new location of the dumpster with your gated
Yes. the enclosure.
wooden enclosure around it. The wooden enclosure is going to match the materials and design of the fence that's on the border.
Yes, the existing fence.
Yep, so that's fine. I did discuss this with the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. And because they don't meet in December, and because you're not changing the look per se, he felt that it was an issue that would be fine, it didn't need to come to the Historic.
We appreciate that.
Yep.
Side conversation.
Yep.
Thank you.
You've indicated as well where you'll locate a bicycle rack.
Yeah, actually, 5 separate racks along the.
Oh,
one
great.
property
Oh,
line.
each one of those is a rack.
Yes,
Okay.
they're actually dual racks for each of those.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Yes, it's actually, you could
Sound-
do dual or single to the
Uh-huh.
same one.
Excellent. Sounds like you exceeded.
And butters within 50 feet of the front entrance, I think most of them are,
That's
or
great.
as close as possible. We didn't want to get too close to the drive.
Yeah, of
So we left
course.
them on the whole property line to stay away from
Perfect.
the park, the access.
That's great, thank you very much. That's a real help. And otherwise, everything else, I think lighting and signage is all been taken care of. So, any other questions? Okay, so this is an unlisted action, but because it's in a locally historically designated landmark building, it becomes a type 1 action under seeker. And so we need to go through the entire part 2. You did a long-term EAF, we have that information. And we need to complete parts 2 and 3, which we'll do tonight. So Christina gave each of the planning board members, and hopefully others, a copy of part 2, which was filled out by our planner. And so if you haven't had the pleasure of doing these before, it's an 18 question checklist that we have to go through that looks at all the potential impacts. And our responsibility is to determine, looking at the big question at the top of each one, such as on the first page, impact on land. Does the proposed action involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site? And the answer is no, which is true, and so we get to move on to page 2. The second one is impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. Cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, or caves. The best answer is no. Impact on surface waters, number 3. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, such as streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes, and again, the answer is no. So next page, number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. They'll be using municipal water, and so the answer is no. Impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding, and again, the answer is no. Although I must say North Chestnut Street can get pretty wet out in front of your property. Impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source, and the answer is no. Impacts on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna, and again, the answer is no. Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources, and the answer is no. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. And the answer is no. We have many churches and houses of worship in the area. Impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. And here we come to the first one that's yes, because it is, in fact, in a locally designated historic landmark. So now we have to go through each of the additional sub-questions, and the purpose here is to ask whether it is either, for that particular question, no impact or a small impact that might occur as a result of this action, or whether the impact is moderate to large. And the first column next to the individual questions for planning board members are references to the part 1 of the EAF. So I don't necessarily expect you to go back to that at this point, but if you want to do that in the future, we can see how they answered their questions in relation to these. So it becomes a source of information. So the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site, or district which is listed on or has been nominated by the New York State Board of Historic Preservation for inclusion on the state or National Register of Historic Places. And the answer to that is, as far as I know, no. So the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office office archaeological site inventory, and the answer is no. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included on New York SHPO's inventory, and as far as we know, it's no. Other impacts. This property is locally landmarked. So at this point, it's really up to us to decide, do you perceive that the change of use to the building, from restaurant to church, and the proposed changes to the exterior of the building and the interior are likely to have a moderate to large impact under seeker? Will they dramatically alter the, in some way, will they affect the environment? Or do you suspect that it will have no impact or perhaps a small impact? Our planner has given his opinion that it's important that we consider it. And I would argue that it probably will have no impact. But if there's any dispute, let's hear it now. Okay, if any of the above are answered yes, which they weren't, then we will move on. Number 11 is impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any municipal open space plan. The answer is no. Impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area, and the answer is no. Impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. And our planner has indicated yes for that question, so we'll go through the sub-questions. Projected traffic increase may exceed the capacity of the existing road network. No. The proposed action may result in the construction of paved parking area for 500 or more vehicles. No. The proposed action will degrade existing transit access. Hopefully not. The proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations. No. The proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people or goods. No. And finally, other impacts. The proposed action may impact network operation, including on-street parking and weekend operation. So again, the question is, do you perceive that to have any significant impact, moderate to large, or you think that the additional parking on weekends would be, and the flow of traffic in and out at specified times, probably a little before 12 and a little after 1, whether that's likely to have, what kind of impact will that have? I would argue, but you guys speak.
I would say there is an impact, but it's small.
Okay. Any dispute on that? So no or small impact may occur. Impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. That's kind of a crazy question. That means anytime you build a building. So the answer is yes, but will it require a new or upgrade to an existing substation? No. Will it be serving 50 single or two-family residences? No. Will it utilize more than 2,500 megawatts per year? Nope. Or will involve heating or cooling in more than 100,000 square feet of building area? No. So, although this may be yes in the big picture, ultimately it has no impact on energy. Impact on noise, odor, and light. I would actually argue this has no impact.
Right.
Although it was checked yes, I would say that under the rules of common sense, this is not going to have any impact. Impact on human health is number 16. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. The answer is no. Number 17, consistency with community plans. So this question is written backwards. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans, and the answer is no. It is consistent with adopted land use plans, so we can move on. And number 18, the consistency with community character. Again, backwards. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. The answer is no. As I said, we have many houses of worship, and this is an area near them, so the answer is no, it is consistent. So that completes part 2. Because this is a type 1 action, we need to continue on. We don't need to do part 3, because we have no significant. We just need to finish up and make a determination of significance. And in that regard, let's see. To grab part 3.
Good, there's nothing monitors.
So, if the form I have is right, we need to make a determination of significance. This is a type 1 seeker action. All 3 parts of the parts 1 and 2 of the EAF were completed. Upon review of the information recorded on this EAF as noted, and considering both the magnitude and importance of each identified potential impact, it is the conclusion of the Village of New Paltz Planning Board as lead agency that A, this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. Shall I read all 3, or can I stop there?
Yeah, before you vote on this,
Yes.
in type 1 action, you also have to spell out
The
the
reasons.
rationale for your negative declaration.
Yes.
That's done in writing.
Yes.
And I don't have a draft. Is that before the board?
I don't have a draft.
Then we should wait until we have a draft, so we can adopt that as well as vote.
Okay.
I would,
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if part 3 is where you did that, but,
Well, part 3 is what you can do in part 3, but basically it's a determination of non-significance. You have to write out the rationale for your decision. Has
Right.
that been done? Oh, okay, so
do we have that? Oh, okay.
that's what we
Provided
got.
to George, I think, prior to the last meeting.
Okay, yeah, I had looked for that, I didn't see that, so. Thank you, Dave.
So we do or do not have that draft?
Looks like George is taking a look at it right now.
This is it down here?
That's what I had drafted.
Right down here.
And then the checks.
Okay, so why don't you, if you have it all,
Okay,
it's the lower part of that paragraph.
I don't actually have that. I was looking for it today. I didn't see it as part of the document that you sent last week, Dave.
Okay, so the idea is that you need to have a rationale for why you're saying that even though it's a type 1, which is more likely than not to require an EIS, you're saying no, doesn't require an EIS, and you have to say why.
Sure.
In a way, part 2 is self-explanatory because you eventually know on almost every
Yeah, exactly.
question. But still, it's a part of paperwork. The other part of paperwork is then notice to EMB.
Yep.
Is that what you're going to be doing?
I would do that after the
Okay.
determination.
Which summarizes the decision and why you decided not to
Right.
require an EIS. So, my mistake, so Dave has done this in the part 3
Okay.
in very great detail. It's basically repeating each of those sections in terms of it will not have an impact.
I know, I was thinking about it today, how
Yeah.
I would write it, since I had looked, but I wasn't aware that we had this. And I couldn't think of anything better, other than to say that in each of these particular potential impacts, there is no impact.
Right. It's just that in some cases you've said, yes, there's some impact, but then in a few words you can say,
Well,
why it's
I'd be
not
happy,
significant.
I'd be happy to identify both in terms of that there is, in terms of the archaeological, in terms of the historic and archaeological resources, I guess it was, that the proposed change of use for the building and the proposed alterations to the building will not have any impact on the exterior of the building, and it's already, and those changes have been reviewed and approved by her Historic Preservation Commission, who really has more oversight in terms of local landmark buildings than we do.
You could just say that.
I can say that in
And we
fewer
can get it in the
words.
minutes, and
Yep,
and that will be a formal motion.
okay. So, Christina, then the rationale for our decision will be based on the fact that all but 2 of the potential impacts listed in Part 2 of the EAF, we answered no to the main question, would have no impact on those items. The 2 that could potentially have an impact was item,
13, impact on transportation.
go to the other one first.
Being in a landmark building.
Impact on historic and
10, I think.
archaeological resources. 10.
Item 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. This building is a locally landmarked building, landmarked by the Village's Historic Preservation Commission. The rationale for indicating this would have no significant impact to the building is that the proposed changes in signage and lighting to the exterior of the building, as well as the limited amount of alterations to the interior, should not reduce the historical significance of the building. All of the changes to the exterior of the building have been reviewed and approved by the Village Historic Preservation Commission. Oh, wait,
She's
you're
doing this
done.
by hand.
It's amazing she's doing this by hand.
There's no tape.
Let me know when you're done with that one.
Okay, that's good.
And, yeah, but I turned that as no. Item 13 is impact on transportation, and we determined that the proposed action may have a small impact on the local area roads, including on-street parking and the movement of cars in and out of the sites during limited hours around 12 noon and 1 p.m. However, the state road on which the property is located and the side roads in the vicinity should be sufficient to handle the traffic. In addition, the multiple driveways in and out of the property should make it easier, so there wouldn't even be, there's likely to be little congestion even in the parking lots in which they'll be using.
Need a second?
That's the motion.
It's seconded.
Any discussion? So on that basis then, the motion includes that the project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, we issue a negative declaration. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's out of the way. So you want to come back to your
Accessibility.
the question of a conditional
Right.
approval? Okay.
Since the discussion is basically with the state now at this point,
Right.
as per the conversation with the regional code official, I'm curious if, assuming that comes back as it's allowed not to have the elevator,
Right.
would we really get conditional approval based on that assumption? Whereas if it comes back, we have to have the elevator, then we have to come back before.
I think either way, they gotta come back. We don't have a resolution ready tonight, and this is a significant approval that needs to be in a written resolution.
Yeah, no, we definitely need a resolution. Whether or not you necessarily need to come back, that's arguable. I mean, obviously, we can't make an approval tonight.
Okay.
My reluctance is, what's the advantage? So here are the other things. I do need to verify, we do need to verify that the parking is okay. If for some reason it's not, you need to provide us a modified plan that indicates either where the additional parking is or how you're gonna rectify the fact that,
Or a modified easement to reflect.
or modified
the change.
easement, but we can't jeopardize the other property by giving you spaces that they would need, so we have to make sure that that's all okay. I know you've been in front of us for a long time, long before I was sitting here, and so it's not my intent to delay you any longer, but what is the advantage of giving you a conditional approval tonight as opposed to just giving you the approval in 2 weeks?
To start moving forward with building construction documents under the same assumption, so we can start to submit those and start that process.
Okay, so the difference would probably be on the order of about a week
Okay.
at best. Is that significant for you? I'm reluctant to do it because I don't really want to set a precedent for doing it. But on the other hand, you know, we do want to work with you. But is that week? Does it matter that we need to sort of step outside this box, or?
Yeah, a week at this point is not gonna make a difference, or 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think the thought that we have is just to be able to get the ball rolling in the new direction.
Sure.
So that we can begin, the process of all of this. We've had an incredibly patient owner in this process
Sure.
as
No,
well.
I understand.
And we want, as much as we want to get started and be able to begin our work inside.
Right.
We also want to make good on his patience.
Sure.
And his time in all of this. So, by the way, you guys have been fantastic through this entire
Thank you.
process. So our patience has only reflected your grace in walking us through this.
Thanks.
Because it is a multifaceted, multi-component process. So,
Great.
I want to go by what makes you guys feel comfortable in this, and if your sense is, hey, let's just give it 2 more weeks and get this knocked out, then we're certainly willing
Okay.
to concede with that, you know.
All right. I'd appreciate that. It would
Yeah.
be easier.
If that would be easier for you
If everything
guys.
falls in your favor, then we're basically done here. And
Yeah. Okay.
it's just a matter of preparing the resolution and dealing with this in a matter of a few minutes at our next meeting.
Mhm.
If any of these things do come up that we need to make an adjustment, you'll have to make some modifications to your site plan. And if it does involve an elevator, obviously, it's a bigger deal.
Yes,
So-
obviously, any exterior improvement to that extent would
Yeah.
take some more time from.
Okay, so if that's okay, then I guess we're done for tonight,
Yep, we'll
and
do.
you guys stay in touch with us.
So 2 weeks from this evening, then?
The 15th of December?
Michael, can I ask a question? Just
Yes,
quickly?
absolutely.
We're only looking at the parking issue to clear up the confusion for the neighbor next door.
Yes.
We're not looking at it in terms of your approval.
Yeah.
Right, no, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you need to know that they're.
We just
not
want to have
being
i's
sorted.
dotted and
Yeah.
t's crossed.
Yeah.
Do they know the same, the same feminine base?
Yes.
Yeah. We do.
Yeah.
These are the owners.
Yeah.
I know, right.
These are the owners.
So,
So-
the concern is that we want to make sure that the site plan doesn't, as we said, doesn't reflect this, any additional spaces for your tenants.
Yes, if you guys just can keep one thing in mind, though, it's been occupied for many years
Uh-huh.
as a restaurant. And it's been the same owner, and we've been sharing parking
Okay,
for 15 years, and we never really had an issue between tenants that live in the building.
okay,
And obviously, some of you guys have been there, dining there, you know how busy we were, how big
Okay.
the restaurant was upstairs. And as far as my knowledge of it, we never had an issue with any tenants.
okay.
So if you guys can just take that in
That's good to
consideration,
know.
we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's.
That's not the problem. The problem is if somebody in your building next door came in and wanted to change occupancy and required, and the parking spaces, they won't have any.
Or if you sold the building to a new owner, then
Well,
they
at
would
that
be
point,
tied by
the
the
easement would be
easement
placed
that you
on-
gave,
yes.
and
Right.
they would change their ability to use that building.
Understand.
Yeah, that's, so we just, right, the current situation is what it is. We just need to make sure that if you guys are still using 16 and 1820 gets sold, that
No.
doesn't impact, for instance, your ability to sell the building because you don't have enough parking. So but thank you for that information. It's definitely helpful.
You're welcome.
And we'll resolve this as quickly as we can. We'll try to get you information about that tomorrow, and then as soon as we.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have another applicant who owns another building on Main Street. But it's gotta be careful on that.
Okay, Guy?
For Liz's sake.
So the next one is PB 1408.
And Mike couldn't come tonight, we just found out we were gonna be here yesterday, so. Previous engagements.
You asked to be here.
What's that?
But you asked to be on tonight. You asked to be here.
I called them Tuesday, and they said they'd call me back, nobody called me back till yesterday.
So this is Guy Caffrey. And at most, this is Rich Sudo, who's a member.
This is Bill Murray, who's our
And Bill Murray's our alternate, thank you. So you've modified the site and changed the boundaries some, and so you've submitted an amended site plan for the
Yes.
solar. Okay. And we haven't seen you since about a year.
I think it was December last year.
Yeah, the last notes I have is the 18th of November of last year.
Okay. I think I went over it in my letter to you. I ended up, I got diagnosed with kidney disease, so.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that delayed it, and then there was kind of extensive engineering work that needed to get done after, as a result of the village engineer's report. So we underwent that extensive engineering, and it did take longer than I wanted it to, but I was in the hospital for a while, so it ended up,
Okay.
And my attorney couldn't be here tonight, and my engineer couldn't be here tonight, because we just found out yesterday that we were actually on the agenda. So I'm here to kind of take notes of what your
Yeah,
initial
so we can have an initial
diagnosis
conversation.
of. Right, and then,
That's fine.
table it, so.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem, and like I said, I apologize that you weren't informed
That's
sooner.
okay, no problem.
So, let's see, so what you're, if you want to just, maybe you can just give the planning board a little refresher on the site, the history, and help our newer members.
Okay, the site is located on Pencil Hill Road, and, well, it's on Pencil Hill Road at the corner of Mohawk Avenue and Pencil Hill Road. We're proposing to build a two-family home. We went in front of the planning board previously, and there were some concerns about engineering that we've addressed. And now we'd like to go forward with, the planning site review process.
Okay.
Is that enough, or like what?
Sure. I mean, I think so.
If anybody has any other questions, if I can answer them, I definitely will.
So to the extent that it impacts this property, you took about just under a quarter of an acre of land from Pencil Hill and transferred it through
To Mohawk.
to Mohawk Avenue property.
Yes.
The reason for doing that was?
Well, I've had extensive meetings with Bryant, the mayor, and they expressed some concerns about parking issues and some other things on 2 Mohawk.
Okay.
That realignment allows us to address those issues that the mayor has voiced concern with on the 2 Mohawk property.
So, is that land that's going to be, that you transferred, going to be graded and paved and so forth? The reason I'm asking is to the extent that it could impact stormwater and other on the Pencil Hill property, which is lower down and
Right.
it's probably already being affected by the 2 Mohawk site.
Right, well, okay, to my knowledge, I believe we're doing pervious surface on this. I don't think it's paved, is it? I'm not
On
sure.
which property?
On the Pencil Hill.
Okay, but I'm talking.
To be honest, I'm not sure. That would be
Okay.
something that we should probably go over with
Yeah,
Mike
so we
next-
should
in 2
discuss that
weeks.
in terms of the site plan.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's just something to write down.
Yeah, okay.
I had, when you and I met at the site last year, one of my comments that I had raised at the time was whether or not you would consider a site plan in which the building was in the front and the parking was in the rear. At the time, you didn't feel that was possible, right? Is that something you can revisit?
Well, if you remember when you were there, we kind of went over the site, and it's really kind of not possible. Remember we looked at the way, the site lays out.
Right.
And it just doesn't work. It wouldn't fall within the building envelopes, it wouldn't, it just,
So you couldn't meet the setbacks?
Right. Okay, so it just doesn't work. And you know, if you remember too, I thought it's kind of good that the building is set back too, you know what I mean? When we looked at the lot, if you remember, it just kind of does work with the building setback, keep it away from it.
I mean, it could, I mean, I think, you know, the site at the moment is pretty insulted, you know, I mean, it's been paved and all the vegetation's pretty much allowed to stripped out and stuff, so I know you have to do some grading and so forth. Hopefully that, I haven't looked carefully at landscaping options, but, you know, hopefully we can try to improve things so that visually we have a site that will, if the building is set back, then we've got some way to make the streetscape more
Yeah, well,
aesthetically
we
pleasing.
have, as far as I know, he included some landscaping in it.
Yeah, I couldn't,
Yeah, so he wants to put in some trees and stuff. and-
okay. Well, we can talk about that during the site plan.
Okay.
And so there are a couple of other issues that I want to raise.
Okay.
So from the elevations that you provided, this appears to be a three-story building that you've got cited at 31 plus feet, 31 and a half feet, something like that.
If that's the case, I didn't know that. It should be 30 feet. The elevation should have been at 30 feet, and
It's not.
okay. What is it? 31.3.
31.3, yeah. But it's also, as per our code, it's a three-story building.
And this is a question.
Because a basement is considered a story for purposes of determining height in terms of number of stories.
Do you know, is that specifically in code? Is there
It's
a
in
code?
More than
Section-
50% is above grade.
More than 50%. There's codes, because this has come up
Yes,
before.
so-
And,
Go ahead.
and as long as 50% of the building is less at a certain percentage above grade, it is not considered a third story. That's inaccurate. So,
Right.
at least to my understanding. And in
So-
this situation, the appropriate amount of coverage on the foundation has been met, so that it is not considered, it's considered just a basement, it's not considered a story.
So it might be a semantic argument if that holds true.
Okay.
A basement, as per our code, is different from a cellar.
Okay.
Basement, as per our code, is a building that the floor-to-ceiling height, that greater than 50% of it is above the average grade, and is therefore counted as a story when counting the height of the building using the unit's stories. A cellar is a ground floor in which less than 50% of the building is, floor-to-ceiling height is above the average grade and is not counted as a story. So your plans refer to this as a basement.
Okay.
So I'm calling it a basement because that's what you're calling it.
Okay.
You can check both these definitions in our code. It's in section 212-5. And then I guess we just need to review the plans and confirm that you're treating this as a cellar and not as a basement.
Okay.
Um,
What is the other distinguishing characteristics of that? Like, are bedrooms allowed in cellars?
That's a question I don't have an answer to right now.
Okay.
Bedrooms are not allowed in cellars according to our building inspector.
Okay, and I'm sorry, can you, because I'm gonna
Yeah, of
play
course.
this for my engineer.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you say that one more time about the distinguish between the cellar and the basement?
I'll do my best. The actual language is in 212-5.
It's in 212. All right, I'll bring that up. Yes.
Okay,
Cool.
so it's basically, it boils down to how much of the floor-to-ceiling height of that floor is above the average grade. And you show average grade in your plan.
Okay.
And if it's 50% or less, then it's considered a cellar. If it's greater than 50%, it's considered a basement. And there are implications for being a basement versus a cellar in terms of bedrooms and so forth.
Okay.
In terms of habitable space. So, and as I pointed out, semantically, you're calling this a basement, so I'm calling it a basement.
Okay.
And if it's a basement, then you have a three-story building.
Okay. No
So-
matter what, even if it's under 50%?
A basement is considered, no, if it's under 50%, then it's a cellar.
Okay,
and then it's not counted as a story.
okay.
But
So
sellers
if
can't
it's a
have-
basement, by definition, it's considered a storage, is that what? Okay.
And the definition, the distinction is a mathematical one in terms of the amount of space that's above average grade. And again, you guys can sit down with the
I'll talk to him about that.
definitions, and if you have any questions, you can talk to the building inspector, and like I said, I'm happy to talk with you about this too, but,
Mr. Chairman, it's also an observation that with the submission that we received most recently,
yeah.
there are architectural elevations, but I have checked the CD-ROM of digital information and the physical files. We have not received vertical perspective floor plans.
Right, no, I didn't see any floor plans for this either. Are you intending to use the same floor plans that you had submitted previously?
You mean the architectural plans, these architectural plans, or
Floor plan.
The actual floor plans.
those weren't submitted
We don't have floor plans.
for the most recent submittal?
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not know that.
The buildings look the same.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much the same now.
But the building plans are updated. But I just want to say, you have 3 floors of floor plan here. You have 3 floors laid out. The basement plan has a full set of floor. Not like, oh, it might be a little bit smaller. Okay. So, you know, well, the definition is the right definition you're talking about. This floor, this same size as the other floors, is totally used as a occupied residential floor.
Okay.
It's very hard to say that that's not a basement.
Right.
Okay.
So the point to note, Guy, is that if it's a 3-story building and/or it's greater than 30 feet, you'll either need to change your building plans or you'll have to go for variances.
Okay.
Or a variance for that. You set 2 variances. If you're
One for each.
one for each.
One
so,
for over 30 and
so
one
if you're
for
exceeding
2.5
the absolute
stories.
height in feet, you'll need a variance.
One application for 2 variances.
Right.
Okay.
Because in the R2, the maximum height of the buildings can be 30 feet and the maximum number of stories is 2.5. I don't actually know what half a story means, but.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll bring
So-
this to my guys. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll need that information. You'll need to make a decision. If you want to keep it the way it is, you'll need to then submit an application for a variance. Or we can refer it. Right. We can refer it to the zoning board of appeals.
And then he puts his application.
And then you would put an application in. But for now, you weren't kidding, were you?
Yeah.
It's more exciting over here. So you'll need to work that out and let us know the next time.
Okay, that's fair.
The other thing I wanted to address is there's another section of our code, 212-26, called design of structures. And I want the premise, the short version of that section is that it says in that portion of the zoning code that basically the village would like to try to avoid neighborhoods in which the same kinds of buildings are repeated over and over again next to each other, whether they're on the same lot or adjacent lots.
Okay.
So I haven't had a chance to look at this closely, but I wonder if your building plan for Pencil Hill is different enough from the buildings you proposed for 2 Mohawk that you've already built,
Okay.
or not. And my sense is that they may not be different enough. And at this point, we're talking about architectural details.
Right.
So the mass of the building, the slopes of the roof, the placement of windows, the placements of stairs and doors, and the details, moldings and soffits and so forth.
Exterior stuff you're talking about?
It appears to be exterior, yeah.
Okay.
So again, if you want to review 212-26,
Okay, I'll have them do that.
have them do that and then see how you guys want to approach that.
Is there a percentage difference that you're looking for, or is it kind of vague?
It seems to be, this is not something I've run across before as a planning board member. It seems to be somewhat subjective. So I will, that's my sense about it. It certainly, the language gives the planning board discretion about this. So I think in that case, our goal would be to work with you and your engineer to try to come up with something that makes sense for everybody.
Makes a little bit more
Yeah.
aesthetic.
So at this point, why don't you guys read it? I'll make sure everybody on this board is familiar with it, and then we'll discuss that the next time we meet.
Okay.
All right? So at this point, those are the things that I think we need. We'll certainly need to send so you submitted I have this mostly electronically, but you guys, in your submission, you included a drainage report.
Engineers report.
And so I will need to have our engineer look at that.
Okay, that hasn't, I just figured, I submitted
No,
this a month ago.
I know, no, I didn't because I wanted to talk with you first about the plan, and I wanted to because it's been a year and so forth, I didn't just want to, in part, I didn't want to send it out without a clear understanding of what's going on, and then have him spend your money and then have a lot of questions, and so I'd rather do it a little more conservatively, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep. In fact, I appreciate it.
So in that regard, is this drainage report a response to the stuff that was presented to you back a year ago?
I believe so, yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay. Then I guess, because my notes indicate that back when November of last year, with respect to drainage, we needed a drainage analysis. That's what you've done, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
My notes are sketchy here, but we needed technical details, including off-site contributions and how you were going to manage stormwater. I mean,
That's in there.
That's
That's
all.
definitely in the engineering.
I mean, one of the problems with this site is that you are the bottom of a bowl at the bottom of a big hill, 2 hills actually, and so there's a lot of water collection that goes through that site. And I know some of it comes down on the stream on the side of your property, but we know that there's been stormwater-related issues and incidents down in that area for many years, flooding of stormwater drains. You're right on the edge of the floodplain district, and so we want to make sure that we have that right. So if you feel that plan addresses the issues that were raised a year ago, I will go ahead and
I believe that they did.
authorize
Yeah.
that.
I believe that was the intention, and that
Okay.
was kind of one of the things that took us a while.
Okay,
So-
then I'll go ahead and if that's okay, I'll send that to our engineer.
That's terrific. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Related to that topic, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to have your planning and zoning secretary have a accounting of the current status of the escrow fees to confirm that we have resources for?
Yeah, so I know that, based on that information, we have a couple of, in excess of $2,000 in escrow at the moment. What I would like to do before I authorize the engineers to try to get an estimate from the engineer of approximately how much time and dollars they anticipate this review would take.
Okay.
Rather than have them do it with a blank check.
I
get a sense.
appreciate that, yes.
And then get back to you if there's a need to put some additional money into the escrow would be both for legal and for engineering.
Okay, and can I get a report of the money that was actually put into escrow regarding this, and also how it was taken out?
Sure.
Yeah. And do you have my email? Can you email it, or do you email it?
Yes, I can.
It's G, C is in cat, A is in apple, F is in Frank, F is in Frank, the number 1, at AOL.
Okay.
There's another open items from the last meeting.
Yes, what are they?
That, some of my notes, there was concern about the right-of-way. My notes indicate this may be a town road, or a village road, rather.
Which, Pencil Hill?
Pencil Hill Road. And the
Yeah, there was some.
question was whether there was need to get a ability to use that area for the development and for maintaining the roadway, the shoulder of the roadway.
Right. So that's what the easement is.
That's
for,
not
right?
addressed. Well, the easement is really on the other property.
Oh, okay.
But now it's on Mohawk's property. You have an easement going across that property to go to the road, but there was a question about whether you needed some kind of agreement to use the right-of-way along Pencil Hill Road for this project. There's also a question of sight lines about the driveway dropping out on the road and whether there's enough sight, because it's an intersection, difficult intersection already, and then having this driveway come out where it comes out, where there's a safety concern. And there was a request for lines of sight being shown on the site plan to show what the line of sight would be for cars on that, at the intersection, coming out of the driveway. Let's see, landscaping to shield the parking, as well as other, we mentioned that. And there was a request to show on the adjacent parcel, the topo, because of the concern with stormwater, to show not just
Yeah,
the topo on this,
I think that's especially relevant now if you're gonna be taking the recently transferred land and turning it into parking, because
right.
Well, that's kind of a separate.
is that lower down, or is that up on the higher part near the building? I couldn't tell from the description, because I'm just not familiar enough.
Are you referring to the Mohawk Avenue or the Pencil Hill?
Mohawk.
The Mohawk, okay, so.
Yeah, it's not clear to me exactly where the boundary line was and where the new one is. I guess I can try to match up the two
Right.
plans, but,
Okay, because you know what, again, I'm gonna mention to my engineer.
So I guess one question related to that I just thought of is, does the drainage analysis that you give us, does it account for what you're proposing will be additional parking at 2 Mohawk and the impacts of that in terms of stormwater runoff onto Pencil Hill? I don't know if it does or doesn't.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
just, that's fine, but let's make sure that it does account for that.
I think it does, I hope it does, but I don't
Okay,
I don't want to
I
tell something I don't
understand.
know.
That's fine.
The first thing you mentioned was was a right-of-way?
Yeah, that along the edge of Pencil Hill Road.
Do I have a right-of-way along the edge
Does
of
the
Pencil?
town, or the village have a right-of-way there? It wasn't clear at the last meeting what the legal status of that road is.
Right.
There's a dedicated road
Yeah, I have a
of the
note.
village. And if it's a dedicated road, how far into your property where you're planning to develop this go? And so you need
Right,
permission from
so,
the village.
guys, so here's the issue. So this is Pencil Hill Road,
Right.
but here's your property line.
Mm-hmm.
And so a portion of the road is on your property.
Right.
And so we probably need to come up with some kind of arrangement so that the village can maintain the road. Or you dedicate that portion of land.
Well, that's usually a user road then, which means that the village will have the right to the roadway and to maintain an area beside it.
Okay.
But my development is back here. It's off the screen. It has nothing to do with.
If you're staying away from
Yeah,
the
there's
road,
nothing near the
you're
road.
like 20 feet back from the road. you
Oh,
probably-
yeah,
We're
more
way
than
further
that,
than that.
because
We're way
it's-
further than that.
This is similar to the situation I had over on Elting Avenue, where I owned to the center of the road.
Okay.
But I
You don't really.
don't really own the road.
Okay.
Only my
Look at the
deed
wall,
does.
Don't bet any money on it.
The important factor also is where we're determining the setbacks from,
Right.
Okay.
regarding whether it is
That was the question.
the property line or the outer edge of the right-of-way.
Right.
So that's another one of the zoning
Okay.
determinations that we make, one of the zoning evaluations we make as we review this application.
Where it is.
And I might also add too, when we're thinking about transportation, of course, in this day and age, it's the street, the user road, as George mentioned, but there's also drainage considerations as well as we want to be thinking about pedestrian circulation in this community with a complete streets policy. So not only the safety of where the driveway enters the street network, but also, in fact, whether there should be sidewalks or other pedestrian provisions on the road right-of-way on the frontage.
I'll adjust that. No, I mean, I'll ask my engineer about that. It's just, it's a hill. I don't think there's a way you can get sidewalk there, but I'm open anyway, but it's a hill, so. Okay, so now is that, again, just for clarification, is this something that it's incumbent on me to find out about in terms of does the village have a right of way, and is it a dedicated road, or is that something that the planning board is going to be figuring
I
out?
think we can figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
I mean, because the setbacks are, I mean, it's considerable. It's like 50, 60 feet, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even close to.
yeah, we can review
I
that.
think the last time there was some discussion about different ways of bringing the road out, coming off the road, and there were questions about the stream, and maybe that's all been avoided now.
I think so.
So-
Okay, cool, so I'm gonna.
So, planning board members, other comments,
Oh.
questions?
Can I bring up the elephant in the room?
I don't know.
How did you get the subdivision done? Wasn't this all one parcel the last time we spoke?
Yeah, to be honest, again, it's kind of legal stuff. It had something to do with the fact that it was, I mean, you could probably elaborate on that a little further, right?
It's just the fact that it was never created by the planning board by subdivisions. So under the zoning law, or the subdivision law of this village, if it was created by deed, simply a long time ago, it was all developed by deed all the way up to the present. Unlike Elting, for example, where it's all created by subdivision. But where it was all created by just one deed or another deed, you could still adjust lot lines with deeds without going through the planning board. That was the approach that was taken. And I haven't read it, but I know there's an opinion by Joe Ariel in this, maybe this case or the one.
It was, yeah, it was conceded.
In which he agreed that that was correct interpretation of our subdivision law. So the question
So
is.
as long as it wasn't creating a freestanding lot. No.
It wasn't, it was
So as
only
long as,
adjusting lot lines.
so lot line revisions don't come under subdivision in the village law.
If they were not part of a subdivision initially approved by the planning board. Once a subdivision is approved by the planning board, any lot line alteration has to come back.
As a lot line revision, okay. So in the case of Green Acres, we change those lot lines, that's a revision, but in this case, no.
Right.
Interesting historical bit.
I just
Yeah.
figured, I didn't know why anybody wasn't talking about that one.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up.
Start down there. Do you have any specific questions, Liz? Or,
Not at this time.
okay. John? Anything else? Rich, Steffens?
We had a little bit of issue with the story, or story fill down here, okay? And it was gonna be moved off when this got done. It's still there.
I'm sorry, say that again.
When 2 Mohawk was being built,
Right,
your contractor was storing fill down here.
okay.
I don't know if you remember,
Yep,
the mayor had a real problem with it.
Yeah, I do remember,
The former mayor.
Yep.
But that fill is still there.
Right, and I think that was addressed in this, like there was a new topography done and that was all gonna be taken care of in this development. So yeah, that was addressed.
Or is that on this site, not on this site?
It's on this site, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it protected so it's not going to wash out? Or is it?
Oh, it's
No,
been
yeah,
stable.
no,
been
it's
there for a while.
stable. Yeah, it's
Oh,
been
okay.
there for years
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah, it's stable.
No, it was just a matter that it was put there with the idea that it was gonna be moved later, and I just wondered.
Yeah, we didn't anticipate it was gonna take this long for.
Oh, okay, so your plan is to use it on site?
Yeah, but, yeah.
For grading, okay. Rich Sudo.
Yeah, just, and I apologize because this might be something that was addressed historically. The 9 parking spaces here are, and you described the conversation that you had that might have reversed the position of these. These are for existing space in another parcel?
No, these are for
to
this.
support the two-family home?
To support the two-family home.
9 parking spaces.
Yes, sir.
So the current site plan is 2 4-bedroom, semi-detached dwellings, and our residential off-site
Yeah.
parking requirement is 1 per bedroom.
So I need to have 8.
So he's got 8 plus 1
Yeah.
additional.
8, yeah.
So that's.
And this is non-specific, but this is
Yeah,
some
what
of
is
the.
that? I wasn't clear what those.
That has something
Those
to do
are
with
drainage,
drainage,
both of
yeah.
those are
Because we're
drainage.
trying to overdo the drainage, I believe, is what his intention
Right,
is.
I know your goal is to try to do infiltration.
It's actually a kind of a intermittent stream.
I know that's true. And there was a discussion about landscaping, so would this prohibit landscaping, this band here of drainage?
Not necessarily, it could potentially be a rain garden
Bed.
type of infiltration, so it could actually be done very nicely, so that it was,
It's a
you know,
big lot.
extensively
I mean,
planted.
it's a big.
Yeah, it's a big space.
Yeah.
If you're having your engineer look at the case for drainage as planner, I can say, I'll be interested in how cars back up into the aisle in relation to the storm basin. It doesn't appear that there's curbing within the internal aisle. So will there be landscaping such as to prevent cars from backing into the drainage basin? So that there's a number of, one topic I may have some comments on is circulation.
Circulation, it's called?
Traffic.
Yeah, traffic circulation.
Within the lot.
Within your lot.
Circulation within the lot, okay.
Anything else? Look like you're thinking there, Rich.
Brian, do we have a regulation how many buildings can be on one lot?
Yes, we do.
How many?
Maximum of 1 residential structure. And that's
Well, 2-family.
Yeah, one
Can
resident.
satisfy
right.
that, right?
Right, either
So it's a 1, 2 family?
One building.
one building.
Great.
Could
Okay.
be a semi-detached two-family.
I don't think we do completeness determination until you hear back from Dave Clauser. Because the question for him, I think, is have you supplied enough information to address all the stormwater issues that came up a year ago?
Well, we
Particularly
do,
with regard to the intersection and water running down onto the intersection.
I think there are multiple issues about completeness. You all have to make a decision about the variance.
Right.
If you're gonna go for that, we'll need to refer that, and then you'll have to make an application to the ZBA. If you choose not to, then you'll need to provide another amended site, at least building plans.
Okay.
So we can't determine completeness
Right.
until you guys decide on that. And as I said, I will authorize the engineer to go ahead and provide an estimate and then begin to look at that. And then I think we've raised a series of questions that you would like, to discuss with your consultants and then come back to us. So we can have you back in 2 weeks. And,
Terrific, that'd be great. I do, for one more clarification on the cellar basement issue.
Yes.
If the cellar or the basement was completely open and there was nothing down there, would that change the clarification from a cellar to a basement? And the grades were all met?
No, it doesn't.
Still that much.
Just a question of how much of the airspace down below is below grade or above average finished grade. If 50% or more is above grade, then it's a basement rental.
Right.
Whether it's occupied or not occupied. The only thing I raised was that you show occupying the whole floor. I suppose you could occupy bedrooms with no windows.
No.
Again.
No, you can't.
No, I
You
never.
can't. So it just sort of seems hard to believe that it could be less than 50% above grade. I mean, you're showing use of the whole floor, which assumes you are above grade enough to get windows in all those rooms. So it looks like it's not going to work out to say it's not a cellar, not a basement. rather.
Well, you'll have to decide.
No, I understand that, but my question,
Yes.
I guess, is twofold. If it wasn't finished, if it was an unfinished space,
Mhm.
right, would that be, and the 50% grade was met, the criteria for the 50% grade was met, I got the impression if it was, no matter what, if it was a finished space, it's considered a basement.
If it's a basement, whether it's finished or not, it counts as a story.
Understood.
Okay, so-
But they said a cellar it had to be considered a basement if it had a bedroom in it, because the cellar wasn't allowed to have a bedroom in it. And I'm
But that's
maybe
not how our
misinterpreting.
definition works.
Okay.
So, just to clarify.
You know what, I'll go over it with them. It's
Yeah.
right. Okay,
So,
I'll go over it with
the-
them,
the
just so we don't waste any
The
time.
definitions in the code are based on mathematical determinations. They don't
Right.
have to do with how the space is used.
Okay. So-
However, once it's defined whether it's a basement or a cellar, then building code will impact how you can use that space.
All right, so
Right.
if it's, and that, I guess that's my question, so the building code.
So the use doesn't determine whether it's a basement or a
Right.
cellar.
So,
But the definition, based on mathematical considerations of whether it is a basement or a cellar, then constrains how you can use the space.
okay, so let's say it is defined as a cellar based on the criteria you're describing, the 50% above.
Then there
grade
are
elevation.
things that you can do in that space and things you can't do.
Okay, and that, do you know, would that be in the building code, Brian?
We're talking about a couple of different codes simultaneously here.
Okay,
The planning board is interested in just the zoning law.
okay,
There's also the village's housing requirements law for rental
Okay.
properties. And if you're going to rent the property out, then the rooms that are allowed to be habitable as a rental property cannot be in a cellar.
they cannot be in a cellar, okay. So that's the answer I was asking, okay.
And the 3 stories, as they're defined in the uniform building code, is different than the way the 3 stories are defined in the local zoning law.
Yeah.
Now, could I have,
That's what we're gonna post.
if it was considered a cellar, so it wasn't considered a story, and it was, I would still be allowed to finish the cellar, right? I just couldn't have a bedroom down there. Is that what I'm interpreting?
You wouldn't be allowed to use it as habitable space if you wanted to use it as a rental
So-
property.
Right, understood, but if I wanted to finish it and use it as finished storage, I would,
You could use it
that
as
would
a
be
storage
acceptable
space.
use? Like I could heat it, I could, right?
Yeah, you can make it part of the building envelope as far as the energy code is required.
All right, cool.
So if you would like to be, you have a fairly substantial list of things.
Right.
If you'd like to be on our agenda in 2 weeks, it would be ideal if we could communicate, maybe by the end of the week and know if you're going to be submitting any modifications to your plans.
Okay.
We'd like to have those by, I would say, next, Christina, you have a regular work week next week, so if things are submitted, by the end of the day on Tuesday? All right, so end of the workday, 4 o'clock on Tuesday the 8th.
Okay.
But we should check in, maybe you and I should communicate by, the end of the week or something. So my email is mzierler@hv as in violin, I.net, hvi.net. All right? So, and Christina has yours, so I'll get that, and we can just see where things are at, in a few days.
And
All
you
right.
made a note to clarify whether the floor plans are changed or they're the same.
Clarify
Yeah,
floor
that would
plans,
be good.
okay. Okay.
Hope this was helpful.
It was, actually.
Good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So we'll talk, and if you have any questions, obviously, you can contact the building office, and they'll do what they can to help you.
No, I think I'm good going forward, so thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Thanks. Have a nice day.
Thanks, you too.
The day's basically over. Have a good evening. The evening's over too.
Okay, so that's it for applications for tonight. We have a couple of zoning items. Time we pushing here? 8:30, not too bad. Okay, so we wanted to get us.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hello?
Have a good day.
Bye-bye. We wanted to get a status update about where changes for 21223 are.
So 2/12/23, the planning board members who've been with the board for a while, there were some changes back that originated in May, and then there was another set of proposed submission standards that I think, let's say, originated around July. So it's my understanding that 2/12/23 A and B site plan submission standards and whatnot will be on the village board, are headed towards the village board on, I think it's Wednesday, I can't remember if it's the 8th or the 9th.
Next Wednesday would be the 9th.
That's what I've requested. There was a joint meeting of the village board and the town board tonight, so
Right.
when, it was my recommendation to push it to that date.
Okay.
And by the way, there is one change to 2/12/23 that also originated in around a June timeframe when the former planner had a consulting project to do some zoning. So tomorrow, I'll also request that that be lumped in with the various 2/12/23 changes.
Okay.
Because that is something your attorney and yourselves, as at least as a board, have already reviewed as well. Okay? So that's the status of 2/12/23.
So when they review it, what possible actions might there be?
So I've requested development of an environmental assessment form, and it would be my recommendation to refer the package to county planning.
Okay.
County planning would review it on the first Wednesday in January, that might be the 5th. So I might contemplate action by the village board, provided it's smooth with county planning, on or around, is it third Wednesday, is that about the 20th of
Yeah.
January?
Exactly.
And I did hear some discussion today that zoning board may be interested in possibly some changes to 2/12/23. That's the first I heard on that topic today. It
Oh,
may-
okay.
So I will strive to try to coordinate and communicate on that as well, because in a sense, we might as well try to hit as much as we can. I hope that's
So
appropriate.
is the village board going to want a recommendation from the planning board again?
I don't know. I need to check in terms of, will the village board want a recommendation from the planning board on what's already there? I believe that it's been provided.
I think we've already made a recommendation.
Right.
Yeah,
But I don't know where it stands now. It's not, well, certainly
Yeah.
if the ZBA gets new changes.
Right,
that's-
but
that's
only, that
different.
would only be if there's altogether new material that I haven't mentioned so
Right.
far that might be requested by the zoning board. But I'll
Right.
try to keep it moving. I know
Okay.
it's been a somewhat convoluted process with the different subparts.
Okay, thanks. So the other thing that we have is Dave promised us some additional proposed code changes for the MS4, and this one is for subdivisions. So we have a one-page document about proposed changes to the subdivision code in chapter 178. Looks pretty straightforward to me.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You going? You
Is there
should.
something else? Minutes?
No, I don't think you need to stay for that. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Your name?
Rich Sudo.
Rich, I'm sorry, George.
Oh, sorry, right? Yeah, you have
And Bill.
Bill.
So I'll
Thank you,
I'll
George, for
keep
your
them
help.
proceeding on the schedule that we've discussed, and now I'll be meeting with Brian. By the way, Brian is the stormwater officer for the municipality, but
Aye, officer.
we'll be meeting to go over also the prescriptions and the process for developing some of the, I guess it's enforcement and inspection standards and fee standards as it relates to stormwater. Okay?
Good.
And then the other thing is, I think you had requested that I meet with the village engineer
Yep.
/ DPW director, who essentially leads the village engineer on this topic, and we've got a meeting tentatively scheduled for Friday. I think I
Right, 1:30.
let you know that. So probably go forward with that meeting this Friday. The DPW director can't attend, but
Right, but-
his colleague can. So
Good.
we'll keep moving with that. And
Okay.
then finally, also on stormwater, the Hudson River Estuary Grant Program, they have local stewardship planning grant portal or opportunity out now. It's my recommendation that the town and the village jointly pursue a new Paltz Green Infrastructure Capital Improvements Feasibility Plan.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot of evidence that green infrastructure is a good way to maintain watershed and water quality, as well as community character. There's a lot of ecosystem benefits. And so I drafted a letter which could be presented to you. I was looking for support of the planning board for going after this green infrastructure feasibility planning grant, essentially. And it will have a major sort of education and engagement component with the community. So I hope that's positive.
What's the,
I could have your support on that.
What's the timeline for that?
So the submission target is the 16th of December.
Okay.
I actually started a lot of the work to design this project back in May and June.
Right.
And didn't get a submission made. I believe that other groups are interested, like the Wallkill River Watershed Alliance, and that it fits with the Millbrook Preserve Management Plan. Moreover, what was I going to say about in terms of time frame? I don't know. I lost a train of thought on when you asked about
Okay,
time
sorry about
frame.
that. So we have this endorsement letter.
I guess what I was going to say is
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
the current grant round emphasizes support by local planning.
Right.
So that's why, since I did get a number of letter of supports in the June iteration, but in this iteration, there is specific criteria for support for the planning board. And so I'll go after the same at the level of county planning, county department of the environment, but it seems like your support can be beneficial. But you know, it's like green infrastructure. There are green infrastructure standards within the stormwater policies of the state. So I think we're advancing that too.
So we have a proposal for a endorsement letter to support this stewardship planning grant, and I realize you've just had a chance to look at it now.
Looks good.
So,
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Is the capacity within the village to execute on this planning grant exist, or would this planning grant pay for consulting
Right. So
support to
the
execute
notion
on the
is to
feasibility?
go after $45,000,
Yep.
and then there's a match component as well.
Yep.
The match component can come from my time administering the grant and helping set up outreach. But as I mentioned, so this would be, let's see, let me step back also to say that my recommendation is for a consultant-funded study so that the consultant can help build capacity among a number of agencies and the stakeholders within the community about how we can advance feasibility and assessment of different sort of applications and different use of different sites for different types of green infrastructure, tree pits, different types of swales. So that depends on soils characteristics and existing infrastructure conditions. So some of that assessment in terms of cost, planning level cost estimates, and other documentation that we can get projects ready.
Yep.
So that when there's a capital project that's already going to be done, whether it's to reconstruct a street, if we have ready plans, maybe we can fit in the green infrastructure or go after grants to make a fuller project that I think will have a better life cycle, a fuller benefit to the community. So consultant-funded study, but I would also recommend that this be in partnership with the regional Wallkill River Watershed Alliance that formed about 6 months ago. And that's for the whole Wallkill River watershed within New York State. in terms of in Orange County and in Ulster County. But I think that us working locally, and there's many local stakeholders that are involved in that, we can partner and play off of each other. They're actually going after a HREP grant themselves. But I think that there's hopefully will be interest. I'm still facilitating that, but I've checked with some people in regards of playing off each other, using their resources to build a
Great.
cumulative project. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. So, I'd like to hear a motion to have us endorse this HREP Local Stewardship Planning Grant application.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. And thank you for
Thank you.
doing this, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
And the good thing is, you know, by the way, a lot of this can go into our annual report for how we're developing
Right.
progress against the minimum control measures. So all this is part of our
Yes.
development as an MS4 community.
And thank you for sending us the compliance report. I appreciate that. Okay, so a few administrative items. We have minutes from the meeting of November 17th. And we have all but John Litton, who was at the meeting. So if there are any changes, let's hear about them now. Otherwise, motion to approve the minutes of November 17th, 2015.
I mean, they look great to me. The only problem is that I recused myself from part of it.
Okay,
So should I vote on it or should I not vote on it?
I think we could still vote on it.
Still vote on it? Okay.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, knowing that the recused part,
As long as everybody else is fine with it, otherwise you've got 3 votes without me, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, motion to approve the minutes?
So moved?
Second?
second.
Okay.
Liz, second.
Fight over it. All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you. So our next meeting is December 15th. It looks like it's gonna look a lot like this meeting. At the moment, we have no other new applications, so we won't have anything else. Yes, I know, hold on, save one, apologize. But we'll hopefully be, have the issues around the PB 1502 resolved, and we can, if indeed they are, then we'll either be probably voting on that site plan, or if they need to, they'll be submitting revisions. PB 1520, we'll have to wait and see if anything happens at 5 Mulberry, and then perhaps we'll see the Pencil Hill property again. I'm gonna let Rich Steffens explain an item that he would like to bring to us.
May I ask one question on the minutes? Was that unanimous by 5 members or 4 members?
4 members.
I'm abstaining.
John Litton was
I
absent?
was absent.
Thank you.
Sure. Rich Steffens.
I'm almost completed with my house, I'm just about done. What I've not even started was the garage. Not even gonna touch it until the spring.
Makes sense.
But the garage is on the site plan that was approved by the planning board. So in order for me to get a 100% CO, I need 100% of the project done. In order for me to get a partial CO or a temporary CO? Temporary CO, which can be done, you would have to understand that the garage part of this site plan is not yet completed. But that you would agree to a temporary CO on the house portion if it meets all the health and safety requirements according to inspections by the building department.
Okay.
At this point, the electric is all in and done, the water's all in and done. The heat is being completed this week. We're 99.9% done with the house. But I can't move in for Christmas. Just trying to pull up the card strings here a little bit. I can't move in for Christmas if we don't if we don't divorce this a little bit from the site plan and allow me to do the garage in phase 2.
All right. So recommendation is you submit just a brief written request to the
Okay.
building inspector. He'll pass it along to our secretary, to Christina, with his specific language for request for, I'll let you frame it at the time, and then we'll consider it in 2 weeks. That's fine. So it would be an authorization for the building, to allow the building inspector to do what he deems he needs. Okay, so we received the meeting schedule for 2016, and this is what will go up on the website, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I think it's already there,
Okay. It's fine with me. I was just going through it. I just want to pull up my electronic copy. So I had a couple of notes. Just one quick. Christina, the first submission date is Christmas Eve. I assume offices are closed.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions I had, but this was done in the downstairs village clerk office.
Yeah, so I recommend the submission date to be changed to the day before, 12/23.
Okay.
Since the only other dates where I saw any possible conflicts are in October related to Jewish holidays, and I'm not observant, so I can't tell you for sure if these are problems or not.
Okay.
Rosh Hashanah ends at nightfall on the night of our meeting, so I'm assuming that we can hold the meeting.
The practice this year was to not hold the meeting when it ended, correct?
On the day
Correct.
in which it ended.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, because that I wasn't sure about.
But I think that was the first time, that, I mean, I don't know if it's a pattern, if you understand what I'm saying. I don't know if it was a first time or.
All right, well, so the two dates, and there's another Jewish holiday that, if it's of concern to people who are observant, no work is permitted on the 18th of October for Sukkot. So let's just double check on those before we commit to those dates. I didn't see any other issues. Anybody else have any comments about that? Otherwise, we'll leave it for now. So as far as our, one other thing, so we've been trying to, I guess we started last time, that tomorrow, that is the day after a meeting, we would have a meeting in-house to set the agenda for the meeting in 2 weeks. And John Litton, you would have been at the one last week, but you weren't around.
What time tomorrow?
1:30.
So Bill came to that one, so it's at 1:30.
1:30? Thanks, Bill.
I can't actually be at any meetings tomorrow. I have other deadlines that I can't miss. So Rich Steffens is willing to substitute for me.
1:30.
All right. So if you guys, are you able to do that? Otherwise, we'll.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, great. So you know what items are there.
Yep.
And
And who has the schedule of that rotation? Christina, is anyone maintaining that, or am I supposed to know that?
no, I should
You're
actually.
supposed to know it.
No, you're not supposed to know it.
Well, I know.
So it's.
So do I.
Okay, so, yeah, well, because it was sort of by the seat of my pants for a little while, but I guess we can formalize it.
Yeah, that would be great.
I was doing it alphabetically. So these two guys swapped, so then it would be, you would be in 2 weeks.
I'm S.
You're
We're
S.
not ST.
You guys have the same
Did
initials.
Liz already do
They-
one?
Yeah, Liz did, she was first.
Let's go by first initial.
All right,
No,
so
we're-
I'm next. Great, I'm next.
Oh, that would really help you guys. So, so you would be on the meeting of the 29th? No, I'm sorry. I've moved things around. The meeting of the 16th. This is, I gotta fix my calendar here. Right, so you'd be on the meeting of the 16th, and then Rich
Be January.
Steffens, if you're willing to do that, because you are doing it tomorrow, it's up to you. Then you would be the first one in January, which would be the 6th of January.
This is planning essentially.
It's agenda setting. Yes, sir.
Great.
can add that, we can add a column to this table. And you guys can, if you can't
I
make
have
it.
only one comment, which is aesthetically, this header could be a lot more symmetrical and.
Go for it.
No.
That's not even us, is it, right? It's the trustees? Yeah, we don't even get our own letterhead anymore, we used to. But, cost saving measure.
There are a couple of questions I have, and I'm wondering if it might be better to go into a quick executive session to answer.
Let me just make sure we're done. I think those are the only items I have, so you want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session at this time.
Do you need to specify what for?
To discuss personnel or?
Either potential litigation or personnel-related matters?
No, to discuss definitions that, on, how would I, related, to discuss issues related to,
There's very limited things we can do for executive
What can we
session.
do for
So
executive session?
if it is an item that is related to an application for which you're concerned there might be potential litigation.
that's what I'm, yes.
Then that's what you need to say.
An item on an application for which there might be potential litigation.
Okay, so there's a motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Which one's second?
Liz.
Oh, okay.
Pick one. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,